Check, check.
It's on. You don't have to do anything. What? It's on. You don't have to do anything. Okay, so you're good. Right here's the stairs. So you're ready to go. All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage former Florida Attorney General Pam Bondi.
Don Trump Jr. and Kimberly Guilfoyle how much Tampa loves our president? Yay! What did you think of the VP's debate last night? Right? And what do you think about the debate commission wanting the next debate to be virtual? Really? It's not going to happen. President's doing great, and he wants him on stage next to him. Thank you all so much for being here tonight, and I have the honor of introducing one of my not only beautiful but brilliant friends. And she is an incredible woman. She was on Fox forever, and now she is chair of the President's Victory Fund. She is an amazing woman, and I get to introduce to you the gorgeous Kimberly Guilfoyle.
Hello, Tampa. Oh my goodness, look at this crowd. I love it. Lovers of liberty and freedom right here under President Trump. Amazing. When I look out into this crowd, you know what I see? 4 more years. That's right. Oh my God, that makes the liberal heads explode. Well, I have to tell you, we absolutely love Florida. And you know who loves Florida? President Trump. Because you guys delivered him, thanks be to God, into the White House. We thank you for coming out for President Trump in 2016. Let's do it again. So how many of you saw that debate last night with our fabulous Vice President? Oh my gosh. Amazing, amazing. What a knockout. He was unbelievable. She was no match for him. I know I worked with her at the San Francisco DA's office, and I got to tell you something. He took care of business last night. And Don Jr. and I spoke to the Vice President about an hour ago and told him how great that he did. And I'll tell you what he really did. He showed the difference of what President Trump and Vice President Pence have done for this country versus what Biden and Harris want to do to this country. They want to bring that nonsense from California where there's rioting and looting and burning down of businesses across this country to places like Florida. You don't want that here. Exactly. We have a total winner and a fighter in the White House with President Trump. He's unbelievable. He's doing very well tonight. Back at business. He'll be back out after this weekend. And I'll tell you, what a leader. By example, showing us what it's like to fight. And he battled through COVID like that, like a champ. And he even tried these therapeutics on himself. That's what a leader does to show this country that we can open back up and we can do so safely and we can get back to the business of America and the America First policies that he has put forward. We have a winner and fighter in the White House in President Trump, and this is somebody, God bless, who understands the sacrifices of men and women in the military, our veterans, what they did to fight for our liberty and freedom. And we have a president that stands and salutes our flag. And we have a president that stands for the men and women in law enforcement in blue that fight for us every day to keep us safe. And we thank them for their service. President Trump is the law and order president. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I have seen what has happened in cities and states across this country when you have someone that shows disrespect for law enforcement, stands by and allows rioting and burning down of businesses and looting. We cannot have this in America. This president stands for your ability to provide for your family, to have your businesses and your jobs. And the left want to shut this country down again. They want to do rolling lockdowns, and they want to bring it to places like Florida. We got to stop them at the ballot box. President Trump, so many accomplishments. He's an overachiever. That's what the Trumps do, right? Total winning. 173 promises made and kept. He's not some phony politician from the swamp like Joe Biden, a paycheck collector for 47 years of failure, the wrong side of every issue. President Trump is an American businessman and entrepreneur that wants to make the American dream available to each and every one of you and for your children and for their children to live on in prosperity for this country. And we've got to help him do it. Are you with me? And I'll tell you, this is somebody that I personally am so grateful and humbled to have been chosen to serve and to help fight for him to protect this country. I am able to live and breathe my American dream. My mother coming from Aguadilla in Puerto Rico, my father from Ireland, he became a citizen the right way. He did not cut the line to try to steal someone else's dream. And then he served faithfully in the United States Army to pay back to the country that he loved. That's how we do it in America. The left wants to open the borders and close the schools. Shame on them. Do they hate President Trump so much that they're willing to put people out of work and destroy the American dream and step on the hard-working men and women that have a right to be able to earn a living and provide for their families? That's what we're fighting for. That's why November 3rd is important. We need a leader who has truly embraced the American dream, and he is somebody who has signed the front of paychecks, creating jobs, not just the back like Joe Biden. So what do you say we give Joe Biden a pink slip? Kick him out of politics. Go back to your basement, Joe. Take a little nap and put on your bunny slippers because America has no time for Joe, right? And we have no time for Kamala Harris, the most liberal senator in the United States Senate to the left of Bernie Sanders. What? No. And you saw last night, right? I mean, no mas. We've had enough of that, I got to tell you. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to fight for the president. We're going to get out there and run up the vote because they're going to try to steal the election. And that's why we need you guys to come out big, huge for President Trump on November 3rd, run up the score, win by a big amount so they can't destroy this country, all right? We absolutely love it. The president has chosen Florida as his place of residence. What a smart guy, right? We love it. It's fantastic. We cannot thank you guys enough. And honestly, we want to say humbly, God bless you and your families. You guys are great patriots. You're proud supporters of the president. That takes courage. That takes resolve. You're great Americans. This country is worth fighting for. Make sure you show up on Election Day. And I'll tell you that I had the great pleasure and honor of traveling across this country to every state multiple times. Seems to like it. DNA fact check, true. He's a Trump. I'd like to see a tweet-off competition between him and his dad. It's amazing. But I'll tell you, we have to just say thank you so much. We love you guys. You're great lovers of liberty and freedom. And guess what? The best is yet to come. Here's Don Jr.
Hello, Tampa. Yes. Man, I like that. Thank you, Kimberly. I got to make sure I thank Kimberly enough, otherwise I will pay for it dearly later. She's a very, very hard worker, relentless on the campaign trail. She also has a couple character traits that are a little bit difficult for you when you live with her. She's an insomniac workaholic with no hobbies. So I get the 3 o'clock in the morning tap, like, say thank you. I'm like, what are you doing? She goes, well, I have a donor on the phone, and I just want you to say thank you to him. I go, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. She goes, no. He's on the West Coast. It's only midnight. I go, leave these people alone, Kimberly. Leave them alone. But she's working real hard. It's been awesome to be out there. And most importantly, it's just been awesome to be able to come to places like this. Guys, to see this enthusiasm is just absolutely incredible. And I can tell you this, because I did it in 16 too. You know, I did it in 16 too. And the amount of sort of grassroots support now is bigger than ever before by a factor of a lot. All right? Now, I get it, guys. You know, I know it's not easy to be a conservative. It's not easy to be a vocal conservative. And it's much, much harder to be a vocal Trump conservative. All right? We understand that. But I can assure you guys, there's so many of you out there that are doing what it takes, that are making the calls, that are knocking on doors. All right? We don't have the benefit of a mainstream media to do our job for us. Right? We don't have that. A multi-billion-dollar enterprise designed to be the marketing wing of the Democrat Party, that doesn't work for us. Other than a couple guys, we don't have the social media teams, big tech, sitting there trying to figure out how to hurt our opponents while artificially boosting us. We have exactly the opposite problem. We don't have pop culture or Hollywood, but guess what, guys? We don't need them. Because we have you. And more importantly, we have results. Now think about it. You know, Joe Biden's been in Washington, D.C. for half a century. Now, sir, name an accomplishment. No, seriously, I do this in places like, you know, this is a MAGA crowd. Even if there was one, you wouldn't admit it, but there isn't. I've done it on places where they're not exactly conservative. I've done it on college campuses, and no one can name one. If you've been there for half a century and you don't have an accomplishment, why would we give you the presidency? Seriously, that's like if you had a contractor like fixing something in your house and it took 47 years. You gonna have them keep fixing things in your house? No. No, but, you know, Joe Biden's perfect for the media because he's the guy that they can throw out there and say, no, it's Moderate Joe from Scranton. How many times have you heard that one in the last couple of months? Moderate Joe from Scranton. You know, it's Blue-Collar Joe. Give me a break. I'm the son of a billionaire. I've had more blue-collar jobs than Joe Biden, okay? Like, let's be honest with ourselves here. Not even close. You know, the difference is, unlike Joe Biden, you know, we've actually signed the front of a paycheck. We've actually created something other than wealth for Hunter Biden. Right? That's another one, right? But, you know, I'll get to that in a minute. But no, seriously, you know, we build buildings. So with my father, with me, guess what? You know how to, we're going to build a building one day? You better know how to dig the foundation. You got to start at that ground level. Joe didn't do that. Joe's been an elected D.C. politician. He's been a senator since his 20s. But now he's going to deliver. Now he's going to do it. No, I hear about it all the time. Now he's going to do it. Joe is going to fix, you know, racial inequality in our country. I don't know. You would have thought that you would have used your 47 years in D.C. to maybe attack this subject if you actually cared about it. If you're not just sort of throwing it out there as lip service, maybe you would have utilized your 38 years in the United States Senate to push this issue, rather than, I don't know, palling around with every segregationist there was. Right? I mean, some of the quotes I can't even repeat up there because they'll say I'm racist for saying what Joe Biden actually said on the floors of Congress. Right? You know, you'd think if you cared about the issue and it was more than just a talking point, I don't know, maybe you would utilize your position as, I don't know, vice president to the first African-American president to push these issues. But he didn't. Why? A, he doesn't know how to get it done. We understand that. But more importantly, he doesn't care, because if you actually solve a problem, you can't campaign on it again. You can't go back and make everyone feel like a victim again. And that's what they've been doing. Right? That's what they've been doing. For decades. You know, Blue Collar Joe, he's going to fix, really? Blue Collar Joe? Blue Collar Joe supported NAFTA. He quadrupled down on it. He defended it again a few weeks ago. He supported TPP. He supported China's permanent status in the World Trade Organization. Maybe that's why they gave Hunter $1.5 billion. Just maybe. Right? It wasn't because of investment prowess. They were doing it to buy Joe Biden, which of course they did. All right? Joe Biden single-handedly has destroyed more hard-working blue-collar jobs than any person in American history, but the media will tell you he's blue-collar Joe. We got to stop buying the nonsense. That's why you guys are so important. You guys have to be able to spread this word, because the media is not going to do it. They'll do exactly the opposite. You saw it, right? Last week, 2 weeks ago, Joe goes to Pennsylvania and gave the lie that was called out last night. He goes to Pennsylvania. I'm not against fracking. That's ridiculous. I go, Joe, point number 2. It's point number 2. It's on your website. You're on the record 17 times. I put up a tweet about it. Here's you telling 15 different supporters at 15 different events on 15 different occasions that you are going to shut it down immediately. But again, when the media is your marketing department, it's easy because you can say whatever you want. If it helps play, if it works in that market, sure. Might as well be the truth. There's no fact-checking. There's no people doing what they do to us. Right, DC Drano? When they come out there, and we put up a meme that, you know, would happen to us all the time, right? We'll put up some sort of meme or a point, which is 100% accurate, but we get fact-checked, right? They did that to me a couple weeks ago. I put up a meme. It was essentially talking, it was, you know, the meme with like Chris Farley from Saturday Night Live, like, remember the time you did that? That was awesome. Like, and it's Chris Farley calling out Kamala Harris for calling Joe Biden a racist during the debate. You guys remember that, right? Well, you're wrong. Because according to social media, she didn't call him a racist. Because she didn't use the word racist. So they can fact check me as incorrect. They can pull the post. They can suspend me. Anyone who watched that, you know, that 5-minute diatribe, that little girl was me. I mean, it was like the least genuine. Like, of the disingenuous people, she is like the least genuine. Which is really hard to believe when you take into account it's Washington, D.C. Like, that's actually a special skill set. I don't know whether to be impressed or upset. But remember that whole spiel? It was like 5 minutes. She talked about his segregationist record. She dropped the quote. She talked about busing. Everyone watching knows exactly what she said. But we get taken down for pointing it out. Yeah, you're right. They didn't, the comma's in the wrong spot, but they don't have a problem. They don't have a problem like they didn't last night, and the moderator doesn't call it out, when she can run with the Charlottesville hoax. You know, when they give the quote, but they stop at the comma, not at the period. Right? They stop at the comma literally right before he says, and this is, you know, that's what we deal with every day. Again, it's why you guys are so important, right? I like to do a little role play, because I like to have a little fun with these, because I say, what if my name was Hunter Biden? No, it's true. Do you think it'd be okay if I took $1.5 billion from the Chinese government? Yes, you can. Not that I would know, for the record. Unlike Hunter. Okay? I think they'd have a problem with it. Just so you guys understand, a $1.5 billion investment from the Chinese Sovereign Wealth Fund in 5 days does not happen, right? I know guys, some of the biggest people in Wall Street, I speak to them about it. They're like, you know, they get Chinese investment. They're like, I go, how long did it take you? They go, 10 years. I go, what was the process like? They go, it was the most strict diligence process I've ever seen in 30 years of investing. These are guys that, you know, have bought and sold multi-billion-dollar companies. They actually have a track record. I go, what are the odds of a drug addict going over to China, getting $1.5 billion from the government in 5 days? They go, 0, unless they're buying him. Which, of course, they were. I have a feeling that if it was Donald Trump Jr. doing that, if I took $1.5, screw the billion, all right, $1.5, I'd be in jail right now. I'd be calling in this speech from a payphone from Rikers feeding quarters. See, it's funny, but it's true, right? What about this one? You know, I take this one even more personally, right? Because they spent 3 years trying to throw me in jail for some sort of supposed Russian collusion, right? There's a wire at the U.S. Treasury from the wealthiest woman in Moscow, the wealthiest woman in Russia, for $3.5 million to Hunter Biden. It's not debunked like Joe Biden claimed. That's real. We don't know what the service is for, because we all know what it's for. And it's not something you put in writing, right? But imagine for a second that Donald Trump Jr. took $3.5 million from the wealthiest woman in Russia. By the way, so we know and are clear, a known Putin associate, because you also don't become the wealthiest woman in Russia without being a Putin associate, right? That's how it works over there. It's a little different. Money tied to prostitution rings and trafficking rings in Eastern Europe and Russia. You think that if Hunter had a T in his last name, you think maybe that'd be a news story? You think maybe every time you were at the supermarket for the next 15 years, that would be the front page of every tabloid and every magazine? But when it's him, no problem. Nothing to see here. Literally, the things that they were hoping for 3 years that we were doing, the things they were hoping that we would do, he's been doing times 20 forever. And now that they know, it's not a secret. It's not a problem, right? Sort of similar to the FBI, right? Now that we know it was Hillary doing it all along, the FBI knew it, the CIA knew it, Obama knew it, now no one wants to know anything about it, right? I mean, do me a favor. I got to do a little survey. This can always go drastically wrong in a big public crowd, okay? Because sometimes you get a moron that doesn't hear the question and they answer, and it's like, makes me look bad. But how many of you have ever entered the wrong password in your phone so many times to delete it? Never, right? It doesn't have. What do you think the odds that a high-priced lawyer at the FBI would do it 27 times on 27 different phones? And again, what do you think would happen if, I don't know, Donald Trump Jr. did that and used it as an excuse? Yeah, there's a recurring theme here, right? I'd be in jail, they get away with it, right? But it's worth it because we're doing this for America. We're doing this for our country, for our freedoms, for our Constitution. We're doing it for our children and our grandchildren so that they recognize the country that we live in a few years. Because if Joe Biden, meaning Kamala, becomes president, you will not. Joe Biden's just the camouflage to get the radical agenda in there, right? Everyone knows he's not. The guy can't remember where he is most of the time. If this was a Joe Biden rally, he'd be here. It's wonderful to be here in Iceland. Joe, you're in Florida. Florida? Where's that? The thing. Right? I know, it's funny if it wasn't so scary. Right? That they can allow that to happen. I mean, imagine Donald Trump forgot where he was once. Not 50% of the time, which is probably an accurate assessment, right? And it's not like me. I do 5 states a day sometimes. So, I can understand maybe a little confusion. He does one every 5 days. And then he goes back to the basement to recharge. So, it's a little different. But if Donald Trump once confused Ohio and Iowa, they're kind of close. They sound kind of the same. 4 letters. If he did it once, they'd be out there saying, 25th Amendment, it's time to get him out. He's in the later stages of dementia and Alzheimer's combined. Joe Biden can't remember where he is 50% of the time. He forgets the office he's running for, and since he's been doing it since the 80s, I think you'd remember. Confuses his wife from his sister. Kimberly would not have any of that. I'd be dead. The Puerto Rican pit bull would come out, and it would be ugly, folks. The men know exactly what I'm talking about. Right? But now, think about it. I mean, that's what we're up against. It's smoke and mirrors to get the radicals in there. It's smoke and mirrors to get Kamala in there. Listen, Joe's known for plagiarizing. He had to drop out of the presidency once before for doing that. He took Bernie Sanders' platform this time. You're not a moderate if you're taking Bernie Sanders' Marxist platform. You're not a moderate with Kamala Harris as your VP, and you're sure as hell not a moderate with Beto, hell yeah, I'll take your AR-15 O'Rourke as your gun czar. Those are not moderate positions. But again, he's the camouflage. In every TV in a country, people are getting beaten to death by a mainstream media functioning as Joe's marketing department, covering up the fraud and the corruption. It's not just Hunter, it's his brother too. I mean, I actually wrote a book about it during quarantine. I could have hung out with Kimberly or wrote a book. I chose to write a book, okay? I'm just kidding, Princess. She helped me a lot. But think about it. I'm not a journalist. There's tens of thousands of them. How come no one did it? I mean, think about it. I wrote a 360-page book, 18 chapters, all of them disqualifying. Not one person in mainstream media picked up these stories. It's publicly available information. There's 600 citations in the book. You'd think that if there were people that actually cared about journalism rather than activism for the left, maybe you'd read some of these stories. It's pretty good material. So I wrote Liberal Privilege because it's just that. That's what they have. I get to hear about privilege all the time, right? But no one talks about that one, which is you can speak out of both sides of your mouth. You can lie ad nauseum. You can say whatever you want to say to a group, and no one's going to question it, no one's going to fact check you, and no one's going to call you out. But think about how scary that is. You sort of have this guy there pretending he's an unknown candidate, coming out of nowhere. He's been there for 50 years. Guys, I know some people that take a while to warm up, to get in the groove. You know? I got the mic, it was like 3 seconds. I'm like, okay, I'm good. I'm in. Half a century? But now he's going to fix it. You know, if this was a Joe Biden rally, it'd be you, sir. And I don't mean to call you out by your, but I just mean as like a quantity, one person. That's a Joe Biden rally, right? And he'd be talking to his one person, staring at the teleprompter to the left. Well, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. But, you know, it's talking to, his group of supporter. And when I say group, I mean singular one. And he's looking over there. And I, Joe Biden, after half a century, am going to fix things now. Pause for applause. Resume speaking. And I, Joe Biden. I mean, think about it, guys. Like, this stuff is not that hard. I've been in politics for about 3 seconds relative to Joe Biden's half a century. I think I'm doing okay. I can get up to people. I can speak. I remember what my platform actually is. He wants to be the president of the United States. It's like Nancy Pelosi, right? You know, oh, yeah. Talk about liberal privilege. Nancy Pelosi. I call her the Marie Antoinette of the 21st century, right? She sets rules. She makes them. She enforces them in a very draconian fashion. Shuts down your life. You must wear this. You best go this. All out. Does she have to listen to them herself? Absolutely not. The rules are for you, not for me. Right? Think about it. But beyond that, beyond just the hypocrisy, when she got caught, rather than saying, I don't know, I'm sorry, I probably shouldn't have done that. You're right. Like, I'm sorry. No. She came back. It was a setup. It's like, what? Really? I honestly I didn't know whether to be like upset or impressed with like the level of cojones it took to like, to spin this thing. I can say that because there's young kids in the room. There's another word for it, but I cannot use that with young children in the room. All right? I mean, think about it. Rather than just being like, I'm sorry, she had to spin it like it was the salon owner's fault. She was set up. Remember this, right? She was set up, and the media gladly, I go, guys, like, am I the only person that has a problem with the person that's third in line to the nuclear codes being set up by their hair salon? I don't know about you, this does not instill confidence in Democrat leadership. I mean, if she was set up by her hair salon, how's she going to do against, I don't know, Xi? Maybe Putin? Iran, I mean, maybe her hairstylist is very vicious, very unscrupulous. Probably not as bad as those guys, I'm just saying. But they can get away with it. Each and every time, right? They get away with it. When Donald Trump gets something small, something small like we've been hearing about for decades, hoping, praying that maybe it could one day happen, like a peace deal in the Middle East, right? Like 2 of them. I'm going to call it 2.5. Because it's really 3, but Kosovo's not really in the Middle East. And so if I give it full credit, the media will say that I'm spreading propaganda. So let's call it 2.5, right? Kosovo being same problem, different region. How about that? Is that fair? All right. So essentially 3 peace deals for a pretty serious problem. We've been hearing about this as like this magical, elusive unicorn for decades, right? Donald Trump gets it done. Crickets. Nothing. The first one, I think, was announced basically the day that my sister, and my father spoke at the RNC, right? So she talks about that, and she mentioned a little story, just sort of anecdotally, about her son, Theo, 3 years old, who built his grandfather a Lego White House. You guys remember that story, right? So she's telling, you remember the media response? Oh, that's almost human. We must end this now. Did 3-year-old Theo build it by himself? Was he assisted? It's like, he's 3, probably had some help, like, right? I mean, I was like, I don't think that was really the point of the story. She didn't say, like, he did it by himself. He's 3 years old, folks. They spend more time trying to cancel a 3-year-old than they did talking about, like, the holy grail of geopolitical politics. Think of how freaking insane that is. Right? Nuts. But it shouldn't surprise us anymore, because that's how they play the game. Look at what they did to Brett Kavanaugh. Right? I'm going to destroy his life, his family, his career. He was obviously a gang rapist, right? I mean, he was on the Circuit Court of Appeals for like a decade. Like, this is common behavior on the Circuit Court of Appeals. No one would have called it out, right? It was so important that Dianne Feinstein sat on it for 4 months. That's how serious they took it, the allegation, right? Didn't stop them. More importantly, the people who lied, and it's known that they lied now, what happened to them? Nothing, because there's no consequence if you come against Trump or conservatives. So I thought that was bad. And then they did it to another friend of ours, Nick Sandmann, right? 16-year-old Christian conservative Trump supporter from the South who's pro-life. Oh, let's destroy his life. Let's end it now. Everyone in the media, he didn't do anything. By the way, in all fairness, I'm looking around the room, the guys in here. He showed more restraint than any single one of us would have by a factor of about 2,000. That shit would not have flown well with me, all right? Nor should it have. He showed more restraint than any human being alive, and they wanted to destroy his life and end it. There's no consequence, doesn't matter. That's why he's the highest paid person at CNN right now. But again, that's what we are up against, right? They can do it to a guy like Brett Kavanaugh, who the only thing I'd ever seen about Brett Kavanaugh prior to being nominated to the Supreme Court was like pictures of him in a soup kitchen on Sundays, like serving food to the homeless. Like, doesn't matter. I can only imagine the accusations that they already have lined up and probably did prior to even nominating Amy Coney Barrett, right? Oh, I don't know what the crime is, but it's going to be vicious. And they'll get a couple clowns in there to back it up. The media will gobble it up wholeheartedly. They will run with it as though it's the gospel. No one will question how asinine it is. Because there's a pattern here, folks. Again, it's why we need you guys to be there. It's why we need you reaching out. It's why we need you helping, not just us, but people like Anna, right? Anna Paulina Luna, running for Congress, neighboring district. We need people like that who have served their country, who aren't just paycheck collectors, who are doing it for the right reasons, not because it's their turn, not because they're looking to amass more power to enrich their sons like Hunter, not people that can campaign on a track record of failure for half a century, but people who will bring something fresh to the table, who will actually stand up. And that's the one thing I'll say that Donald Trump did better than perhaps anything else. He showed conservatives that you don't have to roll over and die. You don't have to do it. I know it's shocking. I know it's shocking because our representatives for far too long, a little resistance, we're just going to fold. You know, they do great in a group like this. Oh, man, they'll tell you everything you want to hear. They'll wax poetic about all things conservatism. Get back to D.C. Whew. That guy at Politico who hates my guts, he's going to write a mean article about me. I better just fold. No, we don't have that anymore. That's why we got people like Anna running. That's why you have people like Matt Gaetz that we were just with running. There's a lot of great options. People who are getting in the game for the right reasons, like Donald Trump. Because guess what, guys? In case you didn't know, Donald Trump didn't need this job. Right? This was not the sort of natural progression. What it was decades of watching people who have no business making decisions, right? Because in D.C., you don't get a position, like a high-ranking position, because you know anything. You get it because you've been there longer than the other people. It's why you have people that don't know the fundamental things of the committees they sit on, but they're in charge of powerful committees because they've been there forever. You know, like Maxine Waters on these finance committees, right? You saw a couple of months ago when she's asking the banks. She brings in the banks because, they're looking for their perpetual soundbite. I'm going to own the banks. It's going to be great. She's grilling the banks about the student debt crisis. What are you going to do about it? Well, ma'am, we actually transferred that to your committee about a decade ago. You guys are in charge of it and held all the debt. Like, we don't do that. And think about it. This is a person making trillion-dollar decisions. They're mortgaging your lives, your kids' lives, your grandkids' lives, and futures. And they have no idea what the hell they're doing. It's why Donald Trump got in the game. You know, you can only throw stones from the sideline for so long before you actually have to man up and step in. Now, I can say man up, right? I don't have to include the other 97 genders just to... Guys, this is a new and PC version of Don Jr., okay? We have to be a little careful. So I want to make sure we include the other 97 genders, but in his case, him, he, whatever the hell it is, okay? Him, decided to man up and get in the game. So the last thing he said to me, June 16th, 2015, a day that will drive liberals crazy forever. He's going down in the, we went down in the elevator together from his office before he went down sort of the infamous escalator ride with Melania. And he just looks me in the eyes and he says, and now we find out who our real friends are. Truer words have never been spoken. But what's more important about it, he recognized the people that had been friends for years, the Hollywood people, the rappers that talked about him all the time, and he's in like 135 rap songs. Like, those people would disappear the second that little R appeared next to your name on a ballot. He knew that. He understood the consequences of that. But more importantly, he understood that, and he did it anyway. We need more of that, guys. The guy that built the greatest economy America has ever known is the guy that can do it again. The guy that's held our adversaries accountable. And when you draw a red line, it actually means something, like 57 Tomahawk missiles later. That actually means something. The guy that actually got negotiated peace deals in the Middle East despite years of Trump's doing it all wrong. I go, wait a minute. What basis do you have to say he's doing it all wrong? Well, Donald Jr., I've been leading the delegation doing this. I go, for how long? They go, for 40 years. I go, what have you accomplished? Nothing. You should lose your expert status if you fail for decades on end, right? That wouldn't work. And if you're a pro golfer or something like that and you go shoot 130, maybe once, twice. The third time, you're off the tour. I wish the people at like the New York Times and the Washington Post, the ones that Trump's doing it all wrong, it's disgraceful. Where was that vitriol? Where was that ire to those in government who were trying the same thing over and over and failing for decades? Why don't they call them out? It's that kind of hypocrisy that we're fighting. The same hypocrisy that allows a guy like Bill Clinton to speak at the DNC. You guys saw the DNC. Did you watch for like comic relief? I saw some crap in there, guys. I was like waiting for Ashton Kutcher to jump out of like a cake somewhere being like, we're just punking you. No one can be that socialist. Like, literally no one can be that ridiculous. You had like 100-something speakers. I called it like the I Hate America Zoom call. It's like a 4-day Zoom call, I hate America. Not one person, by the way, called out looting, rioting, violence all over the country. It's the first time in American history where you get into more trouble for opening up your small business than you do for burning down someone else's. Not one person in the Democrat Party called it out. Because those are Joe Biden voters. They don't want to ostracize their base. Well, guess what, guys? We have to stand up for our law enforcement. We have to stand up for our small businesses, for our freedoms. Shouldn't be getting a ticket to go to church. Again, hey, Ron DeSantis right here in Florida. He's done a significantly better job than all these governors. Andrew Cuomo's hailed as the hero, right? He's 50 out of 50, by the way, in every bad metric. I understand the Democrats love their participation medals, but, that's not a good one. He did it shutting down and destroying the economy. Look at the numbers of New York, where they've declined to versus Florida. They had a much higher death rate, much higher infection rate, much higher everything rate, with much stricter lockdowns, much quicker to grab our freedoms, much less likely to want to give them back. You see what's going on today? Now remember, guys, you were immune if you wanted to loot and riot. The virus doesn't affect you, according to the epidemiologists at the CDC and CNN. Think about that. Well, whether a mass gathering during the middle of an outbreak is really a mass gathering sort of depends on the cause. Guys, I'm not going to pretend to be a scientist, but I'm as qualified as the clowns that were making those kind of statements. But again, it didn't matter, right? DNC. Bill Clinton, another one of those impressive cojones situations. Bill Clinton he got up there and he lectured us about decency from the Oval Office. No, seriously. You guys remember this, right? I don't know if it was during his official speech, but in all fairness, the DNC let him speak the day the pictures came out of him getting a massage from an underage victim of Jeffrey Epstein. That's not disqualifying. They weren't like, hey, Bill, maybe sit this one out. They were like, no, great, go ahead. But it shouldn't surprise us. It's the same party. It's the same party that's been pushing cuties, the sexualization of our children, pedophilia. It's okay with it. I honestly, when that stuff came out 2-3 weeks ago, I was like, this is great. I'm going all in on this issue, being anti-pedophile. Because you would think that even in 2020, even in a polarized world, you would think that this would be something that all Americans could agree on. But you'd be wrong. There were blue checkmark people on Twitter trying to cancel me for being anti-pedophile. Let me think about that for a second. Right? No one in the media questioned Obama. Well, he's getting $100 million from Netflix. Maybe we should ask his opinion on this. Does he think it's moral and decent? How about Susan Rice? We don't know why, but she's on the board. She had no qualifications, but that's how the payoffs work in the Democrat Party. Hollywood takes care of them. Nothing. No questions. No calling it out. Donald Trump funded the task forces to combat human trafficking and child prostitution rings. Permanently. You saw that, right? I have a question for you guys. This is a problem as old as time. Why is Donald Trump the first person to actually do something about it? Right? Well, right? Why? It's sort of like Joe Biden when we talk about him fixing racial issues. He talks about it a lot, but Donald Trump is the guy that pushed the First Step Act. Donald Trump is the guy that pushed prison reform and opportunity zones. Those were not conservative party platform issues, folks. They weren't on the ticket. He didn't campaign on them. It wasn't a promise in 2016. You know why he did it? Because it's the right thing to do. So again, guys, I think you understand sort of the unevenness of the playing field, right? The same people that allow Bill Clinton to be a spokesperson for decency are the ones that will criticize us for anything. But I don't want to make too much fun of Bill, because I feel bad for Bill. I do. I assure you, sir, I'm going somewhere with this, okay? Just give me a minute. No, seriously, okay. I would bet my life that there is not a person in the world that wants out of quarantine more than Bill Clinton. Even CNN, they're like, oh, crap. We thought we could kill that bastard, but he's right. He's right. No one wants out of quarantine more than Bill. I mean, he's probably used to it by now. It's not like it hasn't been 40 years or so, but like, any of you guys see that Zoom call from like 3 weeks ago? You know what I'm talking about, right? It's her screaming into the computer. Like, you know that's the same tone she has even if she's not on a Zoom call, right? I call her shrillery. And she's screaming, and he's just there like, please, Lord, please strike me down now. Lord, please give me the Rona and pre-existing conditions so that I could actually be affected greatly. Bill's just waiting for that sweet embrace of death at this point, like understandably, right? So Hillary's screaming at that Zoom call, just screaming in it, and I felt bad for Bill, hard to believe. That sick bastard, I felt bad for him. And so I'm looking and I'm just like, man, first of all, I called my friends at the Secret Service because we love our law enforcement. We want to make sure they don't have undue paperwork. So I called them. I go, guys, just as a heads up, it looks like one of your protectees may off himself. That's how upset Bill was at having to sit there listening to her, right? So I wanted them the heads up. I didn't want them to have to deal with all the paperwork associated therewith. So we got ahead of that. But I'm sitting there being like, man, I feel bad for Bill. And you know what's going through his head, right? He's just sitting there listening to her go off, and he's just going to his happy place. He's envisioning himself in that blue dress from the Jeffrey Epstein photo. Those red high heels on. And he's just sitting there clicking them together like Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz, just saying, there's no place like Epstein Island. Get me the hell out of here. Yeah, it never ends, right? That poor guy, he's just waiting for Hillary to suicide him. But enough about Bill. But the fact that we know this all to be true, essentially, is exactly why we need you guys in the game, okay? I try to make light of it. I try to make some humor out of it because it only drives the point home that much more. That's how ridiculous what we are up against is. This is not the Democrat Party that we're competing against. This is not your grandparents' Democrat Party. It's not your parents' Democrat Party. The Democrat Party today is that in name only. They are a Marxist party. They don't represent blue-collar, hard-working families. They don't give a crap about that. Look at what Nancy Pelosi tried putting in the stimulus bill. That's all you need to know. The things she was fighting for, you know what? It helped everyone but American citizens. Everyone but law-abiding citizens. That's who she went to bat for. But that shouldn't surprise us. But the fact that no one mentions that is all you need to know. So I need you guys to stay involved for the next 27 days. I need you calling your friends. I need you texting your friends. I need you reaching out. Make the donations. Help other campaigns. Because again, I don't want the presidency without the House or without the Senate. We need all of it. And we need fighters in the House and the Senate like Anna. People who are willing to go to bat like your president went to bat for you. And when we do that, we can keep moving America in a right direction, in the direction we all want it to go. But we can't do that alone. We need you. So thank you so much for being here. It's awesome to see it. 100%, sir. always going to defend the police. Thank you, guys. Great to be here in Tampa. Anna, thank you very much, guys. Thank you. Really awesome. We really appreciate you guys, okay? Stay in the fight. Thank you. Hey, buddy, you having fun? See, if you were a Democrat, you could vote, which would make it more fun. But since you're about, what, how old are you? 9? Okay. You got a couple years to vote as a Republican, okay? Thank you, guys. Thank you. I'll get. Thank you, guys. Thank you, guys.